feel like it's been a while since we've done a car video. Hasn't been that long in reality, but I do so many car videos that if more than a few days go past and I don't do one, it feels like a long time. I have been very busy and have not had a lot of time to do car videos. And it made me reflect, just because I would say, about as busy as I've ever been between kids and work and just, life stuff. Made me reflect how subtly and profoundly these law of attraction, law of assumption, manifesting teachings have improved my life. For me, it's mainly subtle stuff. And I did a video not too long ago. I'll put a link above to it, about some of the things I've noticed after practicing and trying to implement and integrate these ideas in my own life for like the last decade, right? Because I've been into these manifesting concepts for about 10 years. What I always talk about on this channel is that so often the real positive benefits of these ideas, when we actually implement them, are subtle, and they take sometimes years to notice. They're quite often not nearly as dramatic as people make it seem. And I think it's a big mistake to put short timelines or time frames to quote unquote transform your life entirely. I just don't think it's realistic for most people, especially if you have kind of like a laid back attitude towards it, which I think usually is beneficial, to have kind of a laid back attitude towards it. But, a person who's really helped me deal with busyness is my buddy, Coué. For those of you new to the channel, that's kind of a joke. Coué is my favorite law of attraction type of teacher by far, and the person I probably speak about the most on this channel, besides Neville, or more. I speak about Coué at this point more than Neville. I speak about Neville so much because I love Neville as well. But just because Neville's so popular and so poorly explained is why I speak about Neville a lot. I speak about Coué a lot because I still, to this day, am studying and contemplating what Coué says all the time. And I still find myself constantly learning from Coué. To be blunt, that's not the case with me with Neville anymore. I very rarely look at Neville except as for reference for people, especially clients who are wondering about certain things he said. But, as I've said time and time again, and I'll put a link above to the Coué playlist we have, in my opinion, Coué explains these ideas and how we can implement them better than anybody. And it's not about a specific technique. Coué had a very popular, effective technique that he stood by, his conscious autosuggestion method. However, that method, as great as it is for a lot of people, is not why I love Coué. And just to be frank, it's not a method I myself love to utilize in my own life. Why I love Coué is because he basically explains, if not all, 95% of the main law of attraction type of themes we hear about in other places in a much more down-to-earth, practical, and effective manner than anyone else that I've encountered. And one of the things he's really helped me with over the years, and that I've noticed recently, being so busy, is how much implementing his advice and just listening to what he has to say and chewing on it and digesting it and having it form my makeup over the 7 or 8 years, however long it's been since I first discovered him, is how much better I deal with busyness than I used to be able to. I am far more capable of doing a ton of stuff and not getting burnt out now. And of course, part of that is also just a byproduct of having kids and getting older and having to do more stuff. But a large part of my improvement in this area is just by doing my best to implement what Coué talks about to the best of my ability. And you can do the same for any teacher. But Coué is always a good person to turn to. And like I said, I still study and read his stuff and contemplate it all the time. And this is something I read the other day, and I think it will resonate with many of you. Let me, before I read it though, it's just a short paragraph, and I've read it before, I think, on this channel. Let me just say that I hear still all the time, especially in the law of assumption Neville community, I can't visualize. This is the problem, that I can't visualize. Neville has all these great visualization exercises, and I'm not able to do any of them. And hopefully most of you know the answer to that question is it's not a problem. It's no big deal. Don't worry about it whatsoever. If you find you can't visualize or are not a good visualizer, it does not matter. It does not matter. And visualization, the stuff Neville talks about, a lot of those visualization techniques are just that. They're techniques. In the same way that the conscious autosuggestion method that Coué talked about is just a technique. What these great teachers like Neville and Coué are pointing at is not just a technique. It's how your imagination, in their opinion and in my opinion, work. How your imagination, for lack of a better phrase, creates your world, creates your reality, shapes your reality. And this, Coué is about to explain in this little excerpt why you don't ever have to worry about visualizing. Somebody asked him, for those who are sad or who are in distress, like, what should you do if you're sad? And Coué says, as long as you think I am sad, you cannot be gay or happy, right? As long as you think I'm sad, you can't be happy. He goes on to say, and in order to think something, it is enough to say, without effort, I think this thing, etc. Pain or distress, no matter how violent it may be, will disappear. That I can affirm positively. Now, some of you understood what that meant right away, but a lot of you, especially if you're new to Coué, might not have caught what he was saying there. I'm going to paraphrase it a little bit so you do understand. I apologize. I like to do these videos with the windows closed because the sound is better, which is actually one reason the car videos are good to do, because the sound's usually good. I had to open up the windows because it was like a sauna in here, and I just couldn't record well with it being as hot as it was without the windows open. So again, to paraphrase Coué here, he says, as long as you think I'm sad, I am sad, you cannot be happy. And in order to think something, or in order to imagine something, it is enough to say, without effort, I think this thing, or I imagine this thing. So let me say that again. In order to imagine something, it is enough to say, without effort, I imagine this thing. Pain or distress, no matter how violent it may be, no matter how bad it will be, will disappear. This I can confirm for you. This is true, he said, basically. When you think something without effort, it starts to become real for you. The problem is, a lot of things we want, we think about them, we imagine about them with effort. And our effort that we're putting forth actually makes us inadvertently think or imagine that we can't get it. I want more money. If you think that purely, imagine that purely, that's like actually a good thought. I want more money. It feels good, right? But usually we think or imagine, have a thought like that. I want more money. And then the next thought, the next train of thoughts, the next thing we imagine is, I want more money, but I don't have it, or I'm never going to be able to get it, or it's going to be hard to get. So actually, instead of thinking without effort, I want more money, which is a very pure thought, we have the thought, without effort, I want more money and I don't have it. It goes from a thought of abundance, I want more money. That's actually an abundant thought to a thought of lack. I want more money, but I don't have it, or I don't know how to get it. Our imagination, how we think, is so subtle in this way. And if we start to pay attention and study great teachers like Neville and Coué, we begin to realize this more. And we begin to experiment with different ways to think or imagine something without effort. To think or imagine something positive without effort. Because if we think or imagine something happening without effort, if we naturally think that way, it starts to also happen in our external reality. That's so much of what these great guys are getting at, these great teachers. And the way I just explained it, I think, is hopefully in the spirit of Coué, in that it's simple enough to understand. And if it's not, just look at the Coué playlist, or look at Coué. If you don't know where to start with Coué, most of you do at this point because you're familiar with this channel. But if you don't, I edited a book of Coué's teachings called Simple Self-Healing. I'll put that in the description. This doesn't have to be esoteric. We don't have to let the words throw us off so much or think it's this crazy spiritual metaphysical thing. Coué strips basically all that away. As long as you think or imagine that you're sad, you can't be happy. In order to imagine that you're something you want, all you have to do is imagine it without effort. I imagine this thing. I think this thing. And what's bothering you will start to disappear. And what you want will start to appear. Manifesting, law of attraction, law of assumption in a nutshell. So easy to lose track of the simple profundity of something like that. And when we start to understand it some, it subtly changes our lives, or sometimes grandiosely changes our lives. But as I said at the beginning of this video, often it's subtle, and it's very gratifying when you realize that stuff that would have easily overwhelmed you 10 years ago doesn't overwhelm you anymore. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions or would like coaching, I can be reached at radicalcounselor.com. Until next time, be well.